Hey, welcome back. So today we're going to talk about a tool that I picked up that makes doing something that I've been notoriously horrible at actually accomplishable. And that specifically is crown molding. So I'll start this off just by saying I love the look of crown molding and I absolutely hate installing crown molding. I can never get those corners to look that sharp. But that corner I actually did. And I did it using a tool from Kreg specifically for that. So this cabinet I've done. This cabinet I have not done yet, so I'm going to show you the process of cutting the crown molding, getting that corner to square up, and how that's going to look. So first, a bit of terminology. In order to use this jig properly, you're going to have to know and understand the difference between inside and outside corners and what they're determining as left and right. So if we look at this corner right here, so this is a outside of the box, right? So it's going to come down this way and it's going to turn and it's going to go away from us. That's an outside corner. This piece that goes here, the cut that we're making there is going to be a right outside cut. So it's an outside corner, it's the right-hand side. The cut that we make on the piece that goes here and comes back this way, that's going to be a left outside corner. So if you're looking at the corner like this, right, left. If we were dealing with inside corners, it's the same thing in reverse. So if I was going to run a piece of crown along the side here and then run it along this wall, this is an inside corner. The one on this side, this piece would be a left inside. This piece would be a right inside. So this is the Crown Pro from Kreg. This is a jig that you use with a miter saw, and it allows you to cut those angles and get it completely and totally straight. So you end up with a nice professional looking cut every time with pretty little hassle. Now there's some tricks to using this that I'll talk through. First, you do have to assemble it. So this is after you put it together, and there are a couple key settings on it. You've got your angles and you have your guides. We'll talk about that in a second. But then on the bottom, there's this setting that has to do with your crown itself. And it allows you to get the angle of this deck proper so that when you cut, it understands how your crown molding is going to sit on the wall. Now to figure out what angle you need to set this at, they give you this tool. Okay, on this angle finder, you have two different angles. You have your wall angle and your spring angle. The spring angle has to do with the crown molding itself. The wall angle has to do with your room. You should never assume that your walls are always going to be exactly 90 degrees. This allows you to figure out what that wall angle truly is by placing this piece along the wall and seeing where it measures at. So if you're at a true 90, like that, it's going to give you that measurement. If your wall's really more like 100 because it's not exactly straight anymore, it will tell you that. You'll use that wall angle measurement to figure out what to set your miter saw at. So if my wall angle is at 90, and since I'm dressing out cabinets, which I know are square, I am dealing with 90, then my miter saw is going to be set to half of that, or 45 degrees. Now, which way I swing the miter saw, left or right, has to do with the corner. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. The other angle that you have on this angle finder is the spring angle. Spring angle has to do with your piece of crown molding itself, and it's very important that you get that one right. So I'm going to show you how we measure that. This is very hard to do with one hand, but this is a piece of crown molding. It's some scrap from the project I've been working on. And when you look at a piece of crown molding, there's a top and a bottom. The bottom is going to be the more ornate side of it. So this is the bottom of this particular piece of crown molding. That would be the top. When you measure the spring angle to figure out where to set that particular jig, what you're measuring is where the back of this piece and this bottom ledge come together. So you're measuring that angle right there. Again, kind of difficult to do this with one hand, but if I've got my angle finder placed properly, so I'm measuring again the back versus the bottom edge, you can see that my measurement there is putting me right at 40 degrees. The Crown Pro then gets adjusted using that screw, that little black set screw, and this little angle finder. I know it's a little hard to see on the video, but there's a little kind of notch that comes out and then your degrees here. So I have mine set right at 40 degrees to match the angle of my crown. Now this then gets placed on the deck of my miter saw. Now where you place it and which way you turn your miter saw has to do with which angle you're cutting. So when we were downstairs, I was showing you the cabinet angle. The first one I'm going to cut is a right outside corner. So we're looking at that kind of face of the cabinet going to the one that goes away. So it's the right-hand side of an outside corner. Now on the Crown Pro, you have a guide that's going to tell you which side to put this on. So for a right outside corner, the Crown Pro gets positioned on the left side of the miter saw, and I'm going to swing the miter saw that way. So this gets placed here, and since I'm dealing with a 90-degree corner, I go to half of that, and my miter saw gets swung to 45 degrees and locked in. So that sits flat up against the back of your guard. The crown piece then is going to get placed on there and allow you to bring your saw down and cut this. Now, it's a little awkward to do this. Because of the design of this, your material is going to be floating above the deck. So you're going to want to hold it tightly to the Crown Pro. Be very careful and kind of go slow with this because it's a little bit sort of unstable as you're first using it. So I've got my material placed on the Crown Pro. When you do this, you want to actually place your crown molding upside down. So the more ornate piece is going to be facing up, the top's going to be facing down. You place it flat against the back of the Crown Pro and angled out far enough that you can actually cut through it. Now, my typical way to do this if I'm dealing with an angled piece and a flat is I cut the angle first, and then I cut the piece of crown molding to length to the flat edge. If you're going to be doing a angle to angle, like a short piece that has to have two 45-degree angles, one on each side, that takes a little bit more finagling to get this lined up properly. Usually I end up marking the top of this and looking at where my saw is going to come down because you can't really use the guides the way that they're meant to if you're using this. My freshly cut piece will now sit on the top. Again, this is my right outside corner. Next, I'll cut my left outside corner and then deal with the return and the back. So I guess if you're going to be doing any work with molding, I mean, I built these shelves with it. I'm doing it on the cabinet. I'm going to be finishing up some crown molding around the rest of the house because I have it. I really recommend the Crown Pro from Kreg. I believe it cost me somewhere in the realm of 30 bucks or so from Lowe's. I don't work for Kreg. I'm not getting paid to say that. It just makes life a little bit easier and makes it look like I know what I'm doing with molding, which is a heck of a thing. So I am a fan. Now, normally, since I'm done with this video, I would end with a dad joke, but instead today, I'm going to give you a little piece of advice. So I've been doing a lot of work with cabinets, and these are fine for storing glasses and things like that. But if you're going to store valuables, I highly recommend that you always opt for a metal cabinet. I know what you're thinking. They're heavy and expensive. You're going to spend a lot of money on them. All of that's true. Trust me, for valuables, a metal cabinet is a safe investment. All right, we'll see you next time. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. First step in any DIY project, just to do it.